Of course. Here's section 1 of the story script, written in a focused, direct narrative style, adhering to your request for high quality and a word count of at least 760 words. I didn't mean to let anyone in. It just started with silence. Not the comfortable kind. The kind that presses against your chest at dinner, fills the room at night, and makes even your breath feel too loud. Derek and I used to talk about music, travel, books neither of us read. Now, it's just reminders, bills, don't forget the dry cleaning. I stopped asking how his day was. He stopped pretending to care about mine. 9 years of marriage isn't a fairy tale. I knew that. But I didn't expect it to feel like a transaction. I'd make dinner, he'd nod. I'd wear something new, he wouldn't notice. I once left a note in his briefcase, something stupid like, "Remember when we used to kiss at red lights?" He never mentioned it. Probably didn't see it. Or worse, he saw it and ignored it. It wasn't that we fought. Fighting means passion. It means someone still cares enough to raise their voice. We were just two people in a house, breathing the same air but living separate lives. I tried. I booked a weekend getaway. He rescheduled for a meeting. I cooked his favorite meal. He ate half of it, distracted by his phone. I bought laundry, left it on the bed. He rolled over and went to sleep. I stopped looking in the mirror. Makeup felt pointless. No one was looking. Or if they were, it wasn't him. Lena noticed first. My best friend since college. She said I was starting to vanish. Not physically, but the light in me, dimmer. I told her I was tired. That work was draining. That marriage just changes. She didn't push, but I knew she didn't buy it. Then came the night he forgot our anniversary. Not forgot, really. He just didn't acknowledge it. No card, no text. I made dinner. Lit candles. Wore the same red dress I had on the night he proposed. He walked in, gave me a tired smile, grabbed a beer, and asked if I'd seen his charger. I stared at him across the table while my steak got cold. He didn't even sit down. That night, I scrolled through photos on my phone. Beach trips, bad selfies, the honeymoon suite in Santorini. All those smiles. Were they ever real? Or just early stage hope? I don't know what made me go to that cafe the next morning. I'd walked past it a dozen times. But something pulled me in. Maybe I just wanted to be anywhere else. Caleb worked the counter. Younger than me, maybe by 4 or 5 years. He smiled like he meant it. When I gave him my name for the order, he said, "That's a beautiful name. Emma, right?" He repeated it, like tasting it. I went back the next day. And the next. I told myself it was for the coffee. It wasn't. He remembered my drink. Asked how my weekend was. Not in the generic way, but like he was actually interested. He noticed my earrings. "Turquoise suits your skin tone," he said once. I hadn't worn those in months. We started talking. About books, music, places we'd been. It felt easy. Light. Safe. But underneath that ease was a current I couldn't ignore. I laughed in a way I hadn't in years. I left the cafe smiling. I started wearing lip gloss again. I hated that I noticed the way his eyes lingered just a second too long. And I hated that I liked it. One day, he touched my hand. Just briefly. I froze. He apologized, but I saw it in his eyes, he meant to. That night, I lay in bed next to Derek, fully clothed, staring at the ceiling. I kept thinking about that touch. How it made me feel human again. I didn't act on it. I backed away. Told myself I was playing with fire. But something had cracked open. And once it does, there's no sealing it shut again. Caleb was never the problem. He was just the door I didn't know I'd already opened. I started looking at myself again. Not with vanity, but curiosity. Who was I now? A neglected wife? A woman drifting toward something reckless? Or just someone begging, quietly, to be seen? I didn't want to cheat. I wanted to matter. And sometimes, the line between those two things is thinner than you think. Word count. 770 plus. Let me know when you're ready for section 2. Here is section 2 of the story script, continuing directly from the first part, with high quality writing, no repetition, and a minimum of 760 words, I told myself Caleb was a moment. A slip. An emotional echo that wouldn't repeat. I deleted his number. Blocked the cafe from my maps. But the silence returned. And this time, it felt louder. Like something had been stirred awake, and ignoring it only made it hungrier. Derek stayed the same. Work, screens, sleep. I watched him move around the house like a stranger I used to know. I tried to hate him for it. Tried to blame him. But the truth was, I stopped reaching too. It wasn't just neglect. It was surrender. I joined a gym. I said it was for health, stress, energy. The truth? I wanted someone to notice me in tight leggings. I wanted eyes that followed, a smile that lingered. That someone came quickly. Jason was the trainer. Mid-30s, lean, confident. The kind of man who looked like he knew what he was doing, with weights, and with women. He flirted from day one. Harmless banter, compliments that made me blush. I deflected, but I didn't discourage. After a few sessions, he started texting. Tips, playlists, memes. Then came the compliments. You've got such great form. That top brings out your eyes. I told myself he said it to everyone. I also told myself I wasn't special. Both lies. It happened one evening after a session. The gym was empty. He offered me a protein shake, and I followed him to the back. We talked about nothing. Then he kissed me. I let him. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't romantic. It was heat, pressure, escape. And I didn't stop him. We didn't even speak afterward. He winked, and I left. Driving home, my hands shook on the wheel. I thought I'd cry. I didn't. I thought I'd feel dirty. I didn't. I felt alive. Desired. In control. Derek was asleep when I got home. I stood in the shower, hot water on my skin, and felt nothing. No regret. No guilt. Just the question, how did I get here? Jason wasn't love. He was distraction. I saw him twice more. Quick, careless. Then I stopped replying. He didn't chase. I don't think he even noticed. I thought I'd feel empty, but I didn't. I felt like I had a secret. A sharp little secret that made me smile at nothing. But secrets, by nature, grow. Noah was different. He worked with a local gallery that hosted a small exhibit where I volunteered on weekends. Quiet, charming, older than the others. He had this way of looking at you like he already knew your story and was just waiting for you to tell it anyway. He asked about my art. Not just polite curiosity, real, thoughtful questions. He listened. Really listened. That was all it took. We started spending time after hours. Talking about philosophy, love, regret. He told me I was intelligent. That I had too much soul for a life that small. I didn't even ask what that meant. I just let it sit inside me. Blooming Point one night, I told him everything. Not the names, not the details. But the marriage. The silence. The ache. He didn't judge. He just nodded and said, "You deserve to feel full." I slept with him the next week. It was different. Not rough, not rushed. He lit candles. Played music. Kissed every inch like he was rewriting me. I wanted to believe this was love. That I'd found something pure in the wreckage. But deep down, I knew, I was still chasing something I couldn't name. I started pulling away from Lena. She asked too many questions. She looked at me like she saw everything. One day she said, "You're smiling like someone in love and dying inside at the same time." I laughed it off, said I was just happier now. I wasn't. I was obsessed. With feeling. With intensity. With not feeling invisible. Noah told me he felt connected to me. That we had a rare kind of understanding. I believed him. Until I didn't. One evening, I called him and it went to voicemail. Then again. And again. A week passed. The exhibit ended. He disappeared like fog. No warning. No closure. Just absence. I tried to hold my pride together, but it shattered the moment I realized I was never the only one. Derek was still there. Still silent. Still absent in every way that mattered. I watched him across the dinner table and wondered if he had secrets too. If his silence was guilt, or just apathy. I tried one last time. Suggested a weekend away. Just us. He barely looked up from his laptop. Too much going on this quarter? I nodded, smiled, excused myself. Cried in the laundry room with a towel over my mouth. 3 men. 3 attempts to feel whole. But every time I let one in, more of me disappeared. Word count, 770 words. Let me know when you're ready for section 3, the final part of the story. Here is section 3 of the story script, completing the narrative with the same focused, non-repetitive tone and a minimum of 760 words. Derek found out on a Thursday. He never said how. Just walked in, dropped his keys on the counter, and placed my phone on the table like it was a dead thing. Open screen. Messages. Noah's name. I didn't reach for it. I didn't speak. Neither did he. He looked at me like he was staring through someone he used to know. Then he left. He didn't scream, accuse, or beg. He took a bag and drove away. That silence cut deeper than any insult ever could. It meant he already knew. Or worse, that he'd stopped caring long before the truth landed. I sat on the couch for hours. Not crying. Just sitting. I waited for panic, shame, regret. But none of it came. Only stillness. And then exhaustion. Caleb had moved to another city weeks ago. Jason was probably wrapped around someone new. Noah vanished without a trace. I checked his gallery profile. Gone. Just like the man who promised connection. I was alone. Not just without them, but without anything real left. The attention, the adrenaline, the fantasy, burned out. What remained was me. And I didn't know what that meant anymore. Lena came by unannounced. She took one look at me and didn't ask questions. She brought tea. Sat beside me. I told her everything. All of it. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, all I said was, I didn't want to be this version of me. Her eyes were soft. You were lonely, she said. That's not the same as being a monster. But it didn't make the weight any lighter. I spent the next week in the quietest house I'd ever known. Derek didn't come back. He didn't call. I didn't chase. Part of me wanted to. The other part, the honest one, knew I'd crossed a line that doesn't wash off with time. I opened a drawer one morning and found a photo of our wedding day. My eyes were shut mid-laugh. His hand was on my waist. We looked happy. We probably were. But time doesn't preserve joy, it dilutes it. And if no one waters it, it dries out, quietly, without drama. I wasn't chasing lust. I was chasing significance. I wanted to matter. I wanted to feel seen, known, touched, not just physically, but deeply. I tried to find that in men who gave me pieces of themselves, never the whole. And every time I took a piece, I gave one of mine away. By the end, I was hollow. Not broken, emptied. I deleted numbers. Photos. Messages. Everything. Not out of guilt, but because I didn't want reminders of a story I didn't respect anymore. I packed Derek's things into boxes and left them by the door. I didn't know if he'd come back for them. I just knew I couldn't live in the waiting anymore. I returned to painting. Not for galleries, not for praise. Just for myself. The silence started to feel less hostile. More honest. I didn't hear from Noah. I didn't expect to. Jason texted once, late at night. I didn't reply. Caleb was just a memory, blurred by distance and time. There was no big apology. No redemption arc. No one came back to claim me or fix what was broken. Because that was never their role. It was mine. I stood in front of the mirror one night and looked at myself for a long time. No makeup. No filters. Just me. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel ashamed. I just felt real. Infidelity isn't always a scandal. Sometimes it's a whisper. A slow fade. A series of almosts and what ifs that rot under the surface. I let them all in, every one of them. Not because I didn't love Derek, but because I stopped loving myself in that life. If you asked me if I'd do it again, I'd say no. But if you asked me if I understand the woman who did, yes. Completely. I still sleep on my side of the bed. I still reach for my phone sometimes, before remembering there's no one on the other end worth texting. But I no longer fear the silence. I've learned how to sit in it without unraveling. There's no happy ending to this. Just truth. Just consequence. And maybe, just maybe, the start of something honest, not with someone else, with myself. Word count, ~770 words. Let me know if you'd like a compiled version of all 3 sections, or if you want help adapting this script into video format.